Paul Joseph Watson with Infowars.com, and I'm delighted to be joined by Robbie Martin, co-host of Media Roots Radio with RT's Abby Martin at MediaRoots.org, and he's also the co-founder of Record Label Records. Robbie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Today, we're going to cover the timely topic, given the events of the last few weeks, which is the extraordinary incident back in 2004 where you and your friend Ben Vanderford faked a beheading video and fooled the mainstream media. So before we get on to what actually unfolded, tell us how this idea to create a fake beheading video came about in the first place. What was the initial motive behind it?
Well, back when I did it is in 2004, and I wasn't super political back then. The motivation for making it was when we saw the Nick Berg video. At the time, the Nick Berg video seemed to us to be a means for people to get rallied to support the Iraq war again. It was sort of like a rallying cry. Like it was so hyped up on the media and generated all this fear and hatred, especially for like Arabs and Muslims. There were people saying things like, these people cut people's heads off on talk radio all the time. So it was a pretty intense time period. And when we actually finally saw the video, we had to go to file sharing networks to download it. They didn't have the full video on the media. It was just parts of it. When we finally saw it, we were struck by how, I hate to say it, how phony or just how fake it appeared to be. I don't know if the video itself was fake, but what I'm trying to say is it could have easily been faked by anyone. The way that video sort of unfolded. Very shaky cell phone camera, really bad video compression, bad quality all around. And so our idea was, why don't we just try making something like this, compress the hell out of it with video compression, record it in low light. And then we decided, since we didn't have a budget or, very little planning went behind this, we just thought, well, why don't we not actually show a beheading and just show, me rubbing a knife on his neck and sort of make it seem like we're going to behead him. And apparently that was enough to fool the entire mainstream media. But it started...
Just to be clear, you didn't actually make this video with the intent of fooling the media, is that correct?
I mean, in the back of our minds, we were thinking it would... Our goal... It's kind of a weird goal that Ben specifically had, and he was running for district supervisor in San Francisco at the time. So he had this crazy idea that somehow this video could act as a viral marketing campaign for his campaign. And beyond like people seeing it and at first thinking, oh my God, is this real? And then, as the video sort of ran its course, they would realize it was fake, because he says his name in the video. So his thought was, as soon as somebody heard the name, they would Google it and find out that he was still alive, that he was running for district supervisor, all that kind of stuff. But no, we never sent it to any media networks. We never did anything to intentionally fool the media. All we did was we uploaded it to like a handful of file sharing networks with the file title "American Soldier Beheaded in Iraq," and it took 3 months. We got about 100 downloads of the file, and who knows how many other downloads after that. And then 3 months later, AP picked it up. So once AP picks up a story as a legitimate story, it's kind of spreads to all the other media networks at that point. And at that point, it was too late for the retraction to have any effect. So like newspapers that were being printed the next day, for instance, were already going out saying an American hostage had been beheaded in Iraq, even though AP tried to issue a retraction like 4 hours after they initially reported it.
So before we go any further, let's take a quick look at the actual fake beheading video itself. Here it is.
My name is Benjamin Vanderford. I'm from San Francisco, California, 1510 Eddy Street. I have been offered for exchange with prisoners here in Iraq We need to leave this country alone. We need to stop this occupation. We need to leave this country right now. Everyone's going to be killed in this way.
يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة.
So this video gets uploaded, as far as I'm aware, to an Islamist website. Is that correct? Tell us what happens after that.
Well, this is what the American government claims, and I've never been able to verify this part of it because as far as I saw it, it was like they were trying to pass the blame onto not just Al Jazeera, but this other network, Al Arabia, I believe it's called, yeah, which happens to be the same network that proposed this idea that some of these new beheading videos might be fake. So they claim that some Islamic group posted it on a message board, some Islamic terrorist message board supposedly, and then Al Arabia posted it as a story. And then from there, apparently, AP thought that was valid enough to run with it. But I don't know if that's even true. I mean, I honestly, I think AP is mostly to blame for picking up the story in the first place. I mean, so, and then what was sad was they used our fake beheading video as an excuse to kick out Al Jazeera from Iraq at the time. And I don't know if they were kicked out permanently or if they let them back in, but they used that video and they claim that Al Jazeera, spread it around too and all this stuff. So, that's all I know of really how it got from us to the media.
That's interesting, given that Al Jazeera now is asking questions about these new beheading videos. But again, at the time there were a spate of these beheading videos which were presented to us as real, not just the Nick Berg one. There was the Ken Bigley one, who was a British hostage, several others. And they, after a while, I'm not sure if it was immediately after your video or after some other examples of alleged beheading, they just seemed to stop dead. There were no more beheadings, basically until recently with James Foley and Stephen Sotloff. But so the AP picks it up, Reuters picks it up, they report it as genuine without even doing any cursory investigation. The retractions then come out. Then the FBI gets involved as if it couldn't get even crazier. Tell us what happened with the FBI.
Well, the FBI, I don't know how they got my phone number and name so fast. I think they talked to Ben first. So once this AP, basically what happened is an AP photographer, a freelance guy who did photography work for AP, after he saw this wire service story, he wanted to get some like backstory on the guy who had been beheaded, because as far as he knew, it was a real story. So he looked up Ben's name and address based on the video. He says his name in it. And he knocked on Ben's door. At like 5 a.m, and Ben answered the door. So as soon as the AP guy realized Ben was still alive, I think that's when the FBI got wind of it, when the retraction went out, like immediately after that. The government seemed to they didn't step in at any point until after the retraction was issued. So once that happened, the FBI came to my house, and I wasn't even home. They just called my cell phone and they were like, "We're at your house. Can you talk?" And I'm like, I'm not home right now. Can you come to San Francisco? So they said, sure. So they drove up to San Francisco, met me in a coffee shop, and basically played like good cop, bad cop on me, like in a coffee shop. It was really strange. And one of the FBI guys was in a suit. The other guy was in sort of like really sort of cheesy, corny looking, like leather suede kind of jacket or whatever. And they were basically just asking me the stupidest questions you could imagine. Do I have any affiliation with terrorists? Have I ever affiliated with any known terrorist organizations? Do I travel to the Middle East? Because I guess, in 2004, this is the best kind of questions they could come up with. And at the end of it all, it just seemed like the real reason for them coming out to talk to me was to basically threaten me. And all they said was, what I did wasn't illegal, but it doesn't matter if it was illegal or not, because as long as, or if word comes from the top, I guess at the time that would have meant John Ashcroft or the Bush Bush himself. So if word came from those guys, then the pendulum could swing the other way, and everything that's good about my life right now will be over. Basically, they said.
So basically, you were blamed for what they suggested might be an illegal act when you and your friend were basically creating some kind of edgy art project, and then the media picked it up. It was their fault for running with it. Do you think that the AP or Reuters had a hand in, shopping you to the FBI as some kind of revenge for making them look foolish? Could that have been the case?
Oh, I mean, I think it's very, very possible. Yeah, because immediately after that happened, AP started running a variant of the retraction with these quotes from like a Stanford professor saying that what we did was the equivalent of yelling fire in a crowded theater. So it was like trying to imply that what we did, even though it might not seem illegal on the surface, it really is, because we could have put lives in danger or some nonsense like that. So no, that's a very good point. I didn't really think about that before, but I do think that they were extremely embarrassed, and they never really apologized fully for it. They just kind of blamed these Arab networks, is what AP ended up doing.
So, I mean, we asked the question. This was obviously produced on basically zero budget. I mean, we've seen the video. It's quite rudimentary. It's quite crude. We've got groups supposedly now like ISIS with $2 billion in funds, or whoever funds and bankrolls ISIS, which, as we know, is mainly groups like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Jordan, top US allies in the region. Of course, the last few weeks we've had the James Foley beheading video. Top British experts said that it was staged, at least in the fact that the video we saw wasn't him being beheaded. He may have been killed later on. Similar questions about the Steven Sotlov video. Given that those two videos have been used now to grease the skids for this military assault on Syria, which they couldn't get done last year, what's your take on the Foley and the Sotlov beheading videos?
Well, I mean, it definitely just seems like a total redux of the Nick Berg beheading video in the Iraq War. I mean, we were already in the Iraq War at that point, but the tide started to turn against it, and it was kind of used as a means to get people into it again. So just on its face, it's extremely interesting timing, I should say, that this happened now, as this is sort of drumming up again, right after this, even this Vice ISIS special, I don't know if you've seen this, but even that sort of seemed like, how do these guys get access to ISIS for this long? And the whole thing just seemed really suspicious to me, like it was designed to just get the world horrified at what's going on over there. And yeah, I mean, these beheading videos just sort of tip the balance just a little bit more, so that it's kind of like, now it's that template again where it's like, these people are absolute barbarians. Why aren't we over there doing something to stop them? And, the evidence that's just presented on the video itself, we don't actually see an actual beheading take place. The guy is sawing the knife against his neck, very similar to what I do to Ben's neck in our fake video. There's no blood during the initial sawing motion. So beyond just that aspect of it, I don't really know if anything else about the video seems overtly fake to me. People have talked about what he says in the video. I mean, it's possible that he wasn't told that he was going to be beheaded. Maybe they tricked him into, reading it somehow. I don't really know. But my feeling on it is that I think you raised this point actually in your earlier video, which is, why would they not show the beheading if we know that they've done this before and they have actually gruesomely beheaded people before? I mean, we've seen those videos. I mean, I was watching it expecting to be, have my stomach turned when I turned it on, and it was in HD too. So I was just like, wow, this is going to be horrible to watch. But I mean, luckily there wasn't. They didn't actually show the beheading, and it's actually in a lot of ways really similar to the Daniel Pearl beheading video that sort of started this all in the beginning. And in that video, they don't show the beheading either. It's just sort of Daniel Pearl talking and then cut to a severed head.
I mean, again, as you mentioned, if they're so brutal and barbaric, which I fully believe that they are, I mean, I've seen other beheading videos and slaughter videos, women and children being slaughtered. Why would they cut it out? Why wouldn't they go for that shock value? Then there's an added point, if I could get your take on this, which is the demeanor of Foley and Sotloff. As he said, they may not have known they were about to be beheaded, but even still in that situation, you would expect them to be anxious and nervous. In fact, your video, your friend Ben Vanderford, if the others are acting as well, the better actor out of the three was Ben Vanderford, because he actually showed that he was anxious. You know, he was rocking back and forward. Whereas Sotloff and Foley, they're really calm. They're reading out their script. No nerves, no anxiousness. I mean, what's your take on that?
I mean, it's hard to really judge that, because it's like I don't know what exactly the situation was. It does seem a tad suspicious to me, but at the same time, like, I believe that these two guys are probably dead. So I guess it feels a little weird for me to say that they were, you know, poor actors or whatever. But I do find it suspicious. I mean, I can't deny that. And I just remembered this. This is another, you've been doing stories about this for a long time, and it's always been fascinating to me where these videos come from. And you've done some stories about how there are timestamps and new graphics put over them, where they're like filtered through this sort of PR company that gets military videos and stuff like that. But I think it is very strange how some of the more barbaric and crazy ISIS videos that I've seen that seem genuine are not in HD quality. They're kind of more like, you know, iPhone recordings or sort of lower quality camera cell phone kind of videos. But this one and some of the other more recent ISIS videos that I've been seeing, it doesn't seem like it's the same organization necessarily. It might even be some production company out there or something making these. I really don't know. And there's also that weird coincidence with Moussaoui, the supposed 20th hijacker of 9/11, utilizing Nick Berg's laptop to send a series of emails, which is an incredibly bizarre coincidence. I mean, it's just, once you start going down that road, it's like it just becomes utterly confusing. Like, how does that even make sense?
And again, there were a lot of questions about the Nick Berg beheading at the time, and we were asking a lot of them. It's an amazing story. Hopefully these brutal beheadings come to an end now that people are asking questions about them. Whether they're, you know, genuine or not remains to be seen. But again, amazing story. Robbie Martin, co-host of Media Roots Radio at mediaroots.org. Thanks for joining us on Infowars.com.
Thanks for having me, Paul.